Will you be able to hear me if I just talk from here?
Yeah.
Just rough crowd. All right, in your handout, Proverbs 14, verse 4. Let's read it. I'll read it here. Follow along. Without oxen, a stable stays clean, but you need a strong ox for a large harvest.
Wow.
What does this mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah, what's it mean?
So, you could keep your stable clean if you didn't have any animals to clean up afterwards, but you wouldn't have the animals to do the work to yield the harvest. So, if you want to harvest, you have to deal with the mess.
If you want to harvest, you got to deal with the mess. You need some oxen in the stable. Carl.
Well, I think to elaborate on her point, I think you have to be able to maintain some level of work throughout the year if you really want to capitalize on that big harvest.
Okay.
So it takes work to care for the large ox throughout the year, and you've got to make an investment in the large ox if you want to take advantage of the harvest at the end of the fall.
All right. All right, so take care of your animal component to getting the harvest when the harvest is going to be due. Jay?
I'm sure I've read this, but I don't remember it. But there is a saying that comes from the Navy that is almost exactly like this. And it goes like this. It says, you can send a ship out to sea with nothing but the crew, and the ship will come back, but it'll come back dirty and broke down. You can send a ship out to sea with nothing but officers, and it'll never make it back to port.
Wow, that's right.
Well,
that's right.
and the point being,
You need both.
you need both. You need the workers. You need and the dirty component of it. Let me go to Wade, and we'll come back across the aisle.
I think it's about investing in others. That it is to get stuff out of, whether it be an ox, there's cost, there's mess, and it's worth the investment.
You call me an ox?
Okay, so
Oh, you're ox.
so you're talking about others and a relational connection. Others, people. You're seeing people in this. Crystal.
I was just going to say, I just think it means that life is messy and living it is even messier. Yeah.
Life is messy and living it is even messier. These are all good ideas, and I think probably to some degree you can see components of all those things in here. Let's take what a couple people said about relationships, and let's talk about this passage tonight a little bit in that regard. If you think about relationships in this regard, isn't it true that it's somewhat simpler if you don't get too close to too many people? Right?
Yes.
In some ways, to be honest, life's a little simpler, it's a little cleaner, it's a little less complicated if we don't get involved with all the messy people around us. That, in other words, your stable will stay clean if you're the only one in it. Okay?
Well, that's right.
Yes. You wouldn't have everybody else's smell, yeah. So now that philosophy, I think, guides a lot of people in life. That I'm just going to keep my distance from other people. So next question on your handout here. How many of you, us, even as Christians, how many of us are by nature isolationists? We're just kind of, I prefer loner. I kind of like, if there's a stall without people and a stall with people, where are you going? Right? Be careful now. Thank you, Wade. I'm so glad Wade came tonight. Don't you need to travel or something for hope? Hey, by the way, sitting right behind Wade Cook is Jeff Mano, fresh from St. Louis. And so you're going to be hearing a lot more about Jeff and his wife and their family. And they'll tell you more about even why he's here. And they're actually going to be looking to move here. But why we know Jeff, why you know Jeff right now is because he and his wife and the staff and everybody else in St. Louis threw an awesome conference at Reach. Amen? Amen. To which we're eternally grateful. So give him a hug in the fellowship and ask him, and why are you here? And he'll tell you all about it, all right? And we'll share more another time in that regard. Okay, but so why is it that we like to be alone? For those of us who kind of raised our hands there, what are some reasons that we like that? It's quieter.
No one to challenge us.
No one to challenge us.
I get my energy when I'm alone.
I get my energy, introverts unite, yep, when I'm alone. That's where I refuel. People drain me, yep.
No conflict.
No conflict, just peace, peace. Yeah, I like that. Brett. More peace, more energy. Why else do we avoid people?
It's easier.
It's easier.
We had bad experiences with
Bad experiences in the past. I ain't gonna let that happen again. I'm not gonna do that. We're a little insecure, maybe.
I think for moms, sometimes just you get a moment of silence between mom. Constant, need and tugging.
Yes. And all the moms say amen to that, right? And sometimes, it's all those things, and sometimes relationships maybe aren't worth the hassle because they're not progressing. The things maybe aren't changing. Okay, but here's what I know, and here's what you know from the scriptures, right? We weren't intended to live alone. Right? So we have a tension now in this regard. What are some verses that confirm the fact that we're not meant to live alone? Just kind of, you don't need to read them all, but kind of what?
Everyone another scripture.
Well, give me one specific one. Greg.
Genesis is not good for man.
It's not good to be alone.
1 Corinthians 12, we're a body.
We're a body, 1 Corinthians 12. John 13, 34, 35, love one another.
Two are better than one.
Proverbs 27, 17.
What did it say? Oh, you were mumbling there.
Exactly.
Practice hospitality.
Practice hospitality. No, but I want to be at home. I'm finally in my sanctuary. No, practice hospitality. Okay, Yeah. And we could think of many others, right? Just sometimes, the point here is it's easy to not have to bother with other people. You can do what you want, when you want, without worrying about what other people are going to think or do or how they're going to respond. But as Christians, we know we can't do that. We're put on this earth to do life with one another. We know we have examples where we're better together, even with the challenges, better together than we are when we're apart, even with all the complications of relationships, even with our mess and our stink. Speaking of mess or stink, what is some of the mess and stink that we get into? Troubles, codependency, hurt feelings. Marlene, did I hurt your feelings? Not today. Not today. Not yet today.
Other people's problems.
Other people's problems, selfishness. So what other kind of mess and just stink do we get into?
Generational stuff where it's like on and on for years and they're just tough to break, like alcoholism.
Okay, addictive behavior, persevering character, character issues that are just recalcitrant. They're not changing. Yeah, we could have financial challenges. Yep.
Jealousy, envy of someone else's success.
Jealous and envy of someone else's success. Professional issues, financial issues. We can get in all kinds of sticky situations, messy. You're doing your taxes right now. Don't create more financial challenges. Okay, just a little petition there for all of us. Thoughts and opinions. You think about all these things, and as I was thinking about this question, I opened up the Bible to James and just started leafing through James, and I'm like, look at all the ways that we can get into mess. Just look in your sheet here. Somebody have a sheet I could look at? Just borrow here. Look down through this. Our anger. That gets us in some mess and sting. We actually do show partiality at times. That gets us in trouble. Faith apart from works. Sometimes we just get messy and goofed up in our theology and thinking, and we get unnecessarily guilted out, or we don't get ourselves guilted out. Out of our mouth. Has your mouth ever gotten you in some mess? Praise Jesus, we're singing, we had a great quiet time, we're singing a great song, and then we go out and then we do something, we're like, oh gosh, Coveting, somebody mentioned this, coveting, jealousy, we fight, we quarrel, sometimes visibly, physically, sometimes internally, misplaced passions, friendship with just our own worldliness, friendship with the world in James 4, James 4:11, just our judging and critiquing nature and character. Kind of scanning the audience, and what picture is a little out of place. It's you, We do that. Look at all those ways. It's just a small sampling, just from leafing through the pages that we as humans, that we as Christians are messy. There's actually, I found this out last week, there's a bit of a movement in Christian communities right now around the world in a number of different countries called messy church. In this regard. A messy church, it's actually interesting. Messy church concept is an intergenerational, multi-generational church concept where, much like where the direction we're kind of heading in our family, our churches here in the Rocky Mountains, particularly in Denver Church, this year we had a big talk with the leadership on Sunday about it. You'll be hearing more about that. You heard some from Frank and Sonny about our family conference, and we're really moving toward this sort of intergenerational, multi-generational mindset and having diversity of age as well as diversity of many other things. And the idea in messy church is that it's a multi-generational, intergenerational concept where all ages can grow, learn, and be together. In this environment, in some of the messy church constructs, they have crafts, games, food, noise, and many interactive activities for all ages to engage in. And in that setting, it's acceptable and fun to make a mess together. Okay? Now hang with me here. When it comes, however, to personal mess in your life, sin, and some of these other things we were talking about that we can get into one another, it can be too confronting for people to actually be part of a community where others might see parts of their lives are actually a mess. And the idea of messy church is, let's have the fun and the games and the noise and the dirt and the mess, whatever, with everybody together, because it breaks down the barriers that prevent us from wanting to really talk about the real messes going on in our lives. Kind of a curious and interesting concept. And one of the challenges, one of the things probably that we do well and have done well historically, putting ourselves in small groups, because in a small community it's a lot harder to hide your mess. And in fact, you're not supposed to hide your mess. You're supposed to reveal your mess so you can get your mess taken care of. And then you're supposed to help other people with their mess as well. Not just kind of putting your Sunday best on, not just pretending, not just having the happy face, not just showing everybody the good parts. And that's what sometimes can happen in big churches when there's no small group construct or nothing where you can really talk about your mess. All right, so next question on your handout then. When we have personal mess, oftentimes it's difficult or can be difficult to talk about it. How does messiness contribute to us being a little more distant and isolated from the people maybe that we should actually be connecting with to help us with the mess? How does messiness kind of lead to distance? Lead us to want to be separate or push people away? How does our messiness get in there and involve itself in that way? Okay, shame is a big one. Embarrassment, Drake. Okay. Guilt or guilt, pride.
Fear of judgment.
Fear of judgment. That judging word from back up in James. Did I see a hand back here? Was it John? Fear. What are people going to think? Perception. We're always managing perception. It takes a lot of energy to do that. Wade?
Our inner dialogue sometimes can be so negative that we start to believe it's what everyone else is thinking also.
Okay.
So we say to ourselves, you're so stupid, why would you do that? Mm-hmm. But enough of that, you begin to think that's what everyone is thinking. And you
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Dan?
Lack of wanting to be vulnerable
difficulty or lack of desire in being vulnerable, can't figure out how to get open, and then maybe mix these other things in as the reasons why that's difficult. Yeah, Tina.
Unrepentance. You don't want to be open. You don't want to repent. You don't want to be called for repentance.
Wow, that's a good one too, isn't it?
I've never experienced it.
Yeah.
Neither have I.
That's right. Help wait out there a little bit. Rebecca.
I'm thinking assumptions.
Okay. Making assumptions. We'll come back to that one in a minute because that's a challenging one that can really create distance. Jay.
You're going to be exposed. I mean, whatever goes on in your life, people are going to see.
Can be exposed. And then all these other things and more that people were sharing that could be a challenge in that. You know, I thought of this as those are obviously great answers, and those are a lot of the reasons behind it. You know, when it's us, our messiness tends to make us retreat into the gopher hole or the rabbit hole and kind of hide it. When we see others' mess, one of the things that's often an instinctive human sinful response is to criticize it or judge it or make assumptions about it. And I think those things, the temptation to hide or the temptation to judge others, are two of the biggest ones that get in the way and really prevent us from connecting. That's the messiness, just, it gets in there. You probably will nod your head when I read this. It's always easier to see someone else's mess than acknowledge our own. Okay, right? Perhaps you've seen somebody making a decision and thought to yourself, you're going to regret that, or you're about to make a big mess of that, right? And you can think of some things that's true. So the challenge for us, because we're human and we're messy, is before we become critical of other people whose lives are messy, is to make sure that we're looking in the mirror at ourselves as well, right? That really sometimes helps silence that judgment and critique when we remember how messy that we are, and if we're talking about that. And honestly, the reality is for all of us, one of these three things is true today for you. You're either in a mess, or you've just emerged from cleaning up a mess, or you're about one decision away from falling into mess, right? So, and on that note, we're done. Yeah. So given that, and coming back to something Dan said here on your handout, how does our own vulnerability or transparency, humility, or just wanting to be known help us do better at engaging other people and engaging other messy people? How does that help? How does our own vulnerability, transparency, and humility help in that regard?
I think it's easier for people to get open when they see, like, hey, they're human just like me. Like, it breeds more humility. But it initially takes that one person to kind of start it off. Like,
Yeah.
Like, this is where I'm at.
Okay. That's a good one. Chandra.
It helps you relate.
Helps you relate. Okay.
You know, you understand what that person's going through because you're there too, and kind of can initiate to help each other out of it.
Mm-hmm. So you can relate, and then you can help one another. What else? How does our own vulnerability or transparency or just being known, here's my mess, how's that help us get closer together with other messy people? Barry.
I think someone may have hit on it, but when you acknowledge your own messes and recognize the fact that you're a messy person, it helps you be a lot more forgiving and much less judgmental towards other people's messes.
Mm-hmm.
Much more willing to help, I think, especially if you've been in a position to receive some help yourself
Mm-hmm.
at some point because of your vulnerability and willingness to be open.
Okay.
It definitely makes you more willing to engage other people.
Yeah. Doesn't that somehow bring into the situation, the relationship, whoever you're sharing with, grace and compassion and understanding and relatability? It just does, and it just sort of lowers the tension and makes it easier to get over the hump. Yeah, Randall.
Sometimes it makes me feel like my mess isn't that bad, you know?
Uh-huh.
Because
No, it is, bro. No, it is. No, I'm just kidding.
Because I can be so hard on myself.
Yes.
About stuff.
How many people are accused personalities? Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
I could just
We are.
down on myself, and someone will share something, like I hung out with Louis a couple days ago, he shared something, I'm like, good, I'm not the only person that struggles with that. And it's
Yeah.
like, wow. It was such a
He's like, oh.
Sorry, I know.
Yeah.
But it was like, 'cause I struggle with something all the time, and he shared, I'm like, okay, I guess he does too, so it's not as bad as I thought it was for me.
Yeah.
Really helped me out.
Yeah, so in this regard, I think we've all dug those holes, and we continue to dig these holes, right? That it's hard to get ourselves out of, and we make these messes that we can't quite clean up. It's what brings us together. You know, and as Christians, what we believe, right, is the mess that brings us together is the same mess that draws us near to God. And we believe that God is capable of looking at us as messy people, and he decided to send his son to address that mess, right? And so what's awesome about Jesus is that when Jesus came to us, and as Jesus continues to come to us, what does he bring? He doesn't bring criticism and judgment, which is often the first thing we think is going to come when we share our mess. But that's not what Jesus brings. He introduces something. He brings grace and compassion. And that's where, when we can bring that to one another, it's where we can really be different than the world and where we can really shine, right? And so here's an approach that's a bit different than the world has. When it comes to the mess of others, we should practice being students rather than critics. Let me repeat that. When it comes to the mess of others, we should practice being students, seeking to understand and draw the purposes of a man's heart out, their deep waters, rather than critics. Why is that? It's because, you can point to examples where, when you heard the story behind someone's mess, when you actually understood all the circumstances and you understood the challenges and the issues, when you have that whole picture, don't you actually view them differently than before you knew that? Right? Yeah. It's just so true. Suddenly you're just so much more sympathetic than you are critical. And as some have said, then you start to identify, you start to relate a little bit more to them. Okay, so there are certain things that we'll only learn by engaging other messy people and engaging our mess. And we're kind of going through that frustration, getting the stall dirty. Not trying to keep it all neat and tidy, not pretending it's all neat and tidy, not shutting everybody out so it's neat and tidy in that stall, right? A mess can actually become a beautiful thing because God uses us to do great things for him. So, on your handout, next question here. What are some things we can do to better help one another engage our mess? And there's a picture on the back of your handout. I'm going to read this quote. It's pretty blunt, from Judd Wilhite. He says, "Ministry is messy because sin is messy. Get over it, get a mop, and start helping people clean up." All right? So what can we do in this regard? What can we do to better help one another engage with and deal our mess? And here you can start to jot a few things in here, but I want you to think personally as we take a few public responses. Barry.
Well, shameless plug. Starting on February 26th, right? Is that the right date? In Motion is starting again. And as some people who have been through the program have commented, they consider that real church. Even more so than just the regular meetings of the body, because they get to get real, they get to get messy, they get to get dirty. And they get to get their stuff out too. So, shameless plug again, anything that you got, whatever it might be, In Motion can help. And we've got a lot of great facilitators. Tim's got a new book out, an updated book coming out here that he just got some first copies back from print. And so it's going to be a great time for those who have things to work on. And trust me, all of us have something to work on. So,
we all got mess.
And really encourage Rebecca especially to come to Emotion.
And Wade, right? You had to talk to Wade.
Right, that's what that was.
No, but in that regard, one of the beautiful things about In Motion is it has created this environment where it's very safe to come and talk about your mess, and where they've done such a great job of what we all need to do, but in a format where there's not the judgment, not the critique, not the assumptions, where you actually take time to talk through and go, oh, and really begin to empathize and sympathize. And then, but not just to do that, then to really begin to help one another, make progress on those areas, no matter what the issue. Maybe you're just stuck spiritually. It could be something as simple as that. all the way down to the other end of the spectrum where I have an addictive behavior that's destroying my marriage. It works for that too. Like it spans every need and every situation and every person. So that's one. What are some things we can do to better help one another engage our mess? Emotion is one, but yeah, what are some things? Tony?
Amen to what Barry said.
Yeah.
But I think it's amazing the power of asking somebody a question and then listening. I mean, I think even as a social group as we are in the church, we still, I think, oftentimes revert to our nature of being independent and thinking that no one can relate, or I'm too busy to deal with this, or whatever. But it's amazing if you sit down and ask somebody what's going on in something that simple and just listen for 10 or 15 minutes, they'll unravel their own ball. And they'll get to the point where they start to see, hey, this is what's going on, and suddenly it's not so big for them anymore.
Yeah.
And they might even start coming up with their own solutions or ask for help. But, providing that venue can really make a big difference.
Yeah. We have that opportunity to even do that simply when we gather in meetings like this. Because you see someone and you're going to be like, I don't know. The Spirit kind of prompts you, something's up. And to just have that kind of conversation. And not just the, hey, how you going, hoping they'll say, fine, thanks, and move on. But where you do what he just said. Where you just pull aside and talk for 10 or 15 minutes. Like, do you really want to know? No, I really want to know. It's amazing how you can minister just in a simple situation like that. John Kurth.
For me, I have to know that I have a mess before you can help me with it.
So John's inviting any and all critique that you have. Send an email. Psalm 73, right? Somebody mentioned pride earlier. Pride's a huge one. Pride's at the root of a lot of our fear, insecurity, shame, embarrassment, don't want to bring it up, whatever. Psalm 73, pride is like a necklace. I can't even see it. Will somebody please tell me what's dangling around my neck? So, and you'd be surprised, as disciples, as mature disciples, we actually want that. Friends for a wound can be, wounds for a friend can be trusted, right? Kind of thing, like, it's okay. Yeah.
I think it's important to be sincere.
Be sincere is what she's,
to help.
Yeah.
And also making sure to follow up, because that's huge.
Be sincere, follow up. Yeah, but don't offer to do things you're not going to do when somebody opens up. That's especially important around grief times. You can make bold promises, or hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, as you're going, and then you don't follow up. Ooh, not good, not good. Yeah, Vince.
Sometimes it can help, I think, if we kind of get rid of the intensity of the emotion by going to God first with our mess, talking to Him.
Amen.
Praise God.
Getting things out and sorting it out a little bit, so that when we go to a friend or something, we have a little sense of what kind of help we need. They can listen without being overwhelmed.
That, we probably have a lot of variety here in how comfortable we feel even going to God with our mess. For some of us that are older, we're probably like, God, here I am again. But for some of us, that's still a little hard. Some of us a little bit younger. What a great place to imitate David in the Psalms and how he would go to God and begin to process and work through this. But even he knew he couldn't do it totally, but that kind of primed the pump, it softened the heart, it got God working, and then you become a more willing recipient, go back to John, when you get the input, so yeah, kind of letting God do His work, you and God, and applying all these things in that relationship too. Yeah, Rebecca.
I think a key one too is expressing empathy.
Okay.
And just being able to empathize with somebody when they're in their mess.
Okay.
Really brings people together as well.
Empathy. Empathy and validation, I think those things are important. Yeah, a couple other ones, Chandra, and then Alicia.
I think it all sums up in having consistent be times.
Okay, a consistency. And tell me what you mean by that. What's consistency breed into helping us one another better engage and be real?
When you set a time, and I haven't been really good with this, but when you set a time with your discipler and just get dirty, and you have that relationship with your discipler that, they understand where you're coming from because they've been there or they're going through it too. So, just actually sitting down and getting there.
There's something to be said for just routine and structure. For some of us wear our heart in our sleeves. So, but others of us, man, we can run along for a week or two or a month or 3 or whatever, but if we don't have, it won't happen. So I think that's good. Yeah, a couple more.
You said earlier, if you see somebody in fellowship, or whatever going on, but I think too, we have to also be looking about who we don't see. Because like we started out talking about, people tend to isolate when they're in their mess, right? And so
Yep.
when you're looking around and, if you're coming to the fellowship looking to give and looking to see who's not here, who's missing from the family dinner, right?
Yeah.
You don't go to dinner, sit down at the
Great
table,
point.
and one of your kids ain't there, and you be like, oh, let's just go on and eat, and, you want to find out what's going on. So I think that's something that we need to be aware of as well.
That's an excellent point.
Terry's awesome at it, by the way. I wanted to share that shameless plug. Terry's awesome about noticing who ain't at the dinner table, and she will come and get you.
Yeah. No, but that's good. We do. We know that. We all do that. If we're not doing well, it's not like we want to broadcast it to the world or we feel uncomfortable, and it's so tempting to hide. It's so tempting to, hop in the wine press and just chill out, and avoid people. It's true. I think that's awesome input. Sonny.
No, I think going back to what Shauna said, I think sometimes we get in a little mess and our little mess becomes a bigger mess. And I always say oil changes, not engine replacement. Oil changes are never convenient, but if you don't do them, replacing the engine is a lot more work.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like
we certainly see that.
Talking about our small messes and it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal, but a lot of times those little deals that we don't deal with, little messes, become big messes in our families and our marriages.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah, boy, we can all see and sense that one, right? Personally and experientially. Alicia, I'm sorry, forgot.
When we're dealing with people's messes and our own messes, I think there's two things. One, when you're really vulnerable, you're generally beat down by Satan at that point. And I think a lot of times we really just need to encourage each other. I remember in the past, we used to hear for every hard, constructive criticism, give them 10 compliments. Because I think a lot of times, that's why you don't want to be open, because you already beat yourself up so much, and it's working on you too.
Yeah.
And that's where I think really building each other up, I'm so grateful that you're open and that you're real and that you're honest. And praise the good things that are there to empower them, but then to also give them criticism so
Sure.
that they can do something with that empowerment.
Sure. That's a great point, Alicia, because I think sometimes, the idea of building someone up, maybe it's not even the issue they're working with, but if you help them feel good enough about these other things, then there's a willingness to be able to, well, that's good, thank you, but hey, there's this thing going on. It just allows that other one to come out because you've been buoyed up a bit. That's actually really, really, really powerful. All the way, I can't see behind Jim.
Hi, I'm Madonna, visiting from the Montgomery County Church.
Come on, Montgomery County.
But one of the things we're doing in my sector, I feel like I should stand up, sorry. One of the things we're doing in my sector is really tightening up on how we encourage each other, and I really want to piggyback on the sister. I can't see her because he was here, but amen.
Jim is the way of a lot of progress.
When you're in a messy situation, kind of help people kind of do a roadmap of how they got there, and help them remember a time in their walk with God where they were doing well, and what stopped. What stopped them from having a great time with God? What stopped them from dreaming? And, and sometimes that, again, someone else said it here, is kind of they figure it out then. Oh, I stopped having my quiet time every day. Or I stopped confessing. Or, so it's kind of leading them through it, empowering them to see, okay, I need to add this back to my walk with God to get me back on track.
Yep. That's good stuff. Everybody, thank you for sharing. All right, I want to move along here a little bit. The next segment that you see there in your handout where it says building blocks of family. For those of us that were at the Leaders Retreat several weeks ago, John shared that day about some of the building blocks of instilling family into our small groups. And just to recap, some of you weren't there, but he talked about togetherness builds family. And I give you some examples there. Meet together, sit together, pray together, ride together, discuss together, confess together, encourage together, have fun together, et cetera, et cetera. One of the challenges when you're in a mess is you don't want to be together. And so you have to bust through that somehow using some of the strategies we talked about. Specialness, greetings, hugs, anniversaries, birthdays, kids' needs, et cetera, et cetera. Again, looking for those opportunities to engage people. You can kind of tell when someone gives you the cold hug or the limp hug or the specialness isn't there. You're like, it's like, okay. What's up, but you just know it. Godliness, it's just bringing God in all these ways listed here into the reality of what's really going on about our mess. So those are some ways they talked about family. So here's what you're with your family group. I want you to take just a few moments here and think about all that we've talked about tonight and answer a couple questions. In what ways do you see things that we've been talking about today impacting, either for good or for ill, these areas in your family group? And what we're doing is we're kind of evaluating how's our vulnerability level, how's our connection level with people in our group, how's our togetherness, how's our specialness, is there anybody that's not connected right now? How are we doing? And then secondly, to kind of, as you're thinking about that, just think, what are some of the good things we are doing? What are some people we've been able to bring in, or some that are just, we're helping them. We're helping them persevere through a tough time, a persevering time. We're being patient and we're nurturing them back to health, or other inspiring examples. So just want you to take maybe 7-8 minutes in your family group. Just talk about these two questions, and then we're going to wrap up with just a personal thing for what you can do. And then we're going to use that index card that you have right before we leave. So go ahead. You're in your family group. Tackle those two questions here for the next short little bit. Hey, buddy. You should see on your handout a spot where it has this question and then some space to write. What did you learn from today's lesson that you can do to benefit the family, creating family in your group? Even the talk you just had right now, maybe some things came to mind. Talk that we had just during the lesson time, sort of the interactive time there. What did you learn today that you can do to benefit your family group? I want you to go ahead and write something down, some one thing. Maybe it's something that's causing you right now to be a bit distant from church, from friends, from your spiritual family. And you're just like, I'm just going to pray about that thing, and I'm going to go after that this week. Maybe as you were talking in your group, you're like, oh man, there's that brother or sister in my group that's starting to wonder a little bit, and we've been kind of letting them go. I'm going to do something intentionally to go after that sheep right now. Or maybe it's something as simple as, hey, this week I tend to be really critical. Maybe that's what you're thinking. I tend, when I see other people's mess, but this week, instead of being critical and thinking I'm better than them, or I'd never do that, say to yourself, hey, I know that I'm a mess, right? The only reason I can see a mess is because I am a mess. And that kind of tampers the critical thinking and the judgmental attitude. So just take 30 seconds to think, what's one thing that you can do? And then I'm going to tell you how to use that index card. Okay, feel free to keep writing. So in summary for tonight, if you don't have close friends, If you don't like people in your pen, life is going to be a lot cleaner. But you're not going to get the things done in life that God envisions that you're going to actually get done. Okay? So let's drop our expectations that life with other people is going to be easy. It's not. It's going to be messy. Other people are going to get on your nerves, frustrate you, make you mad. Welcome to the human race. But as long as you're human, you got to keep running the race, right? Okay? And as the passage said, the proverb we looked at, let's learn to deal with the dirty stable. Why? So that we can produce the larger harvest that it talks about at the end of that verse. Even if the oxen really smell. Okay? So let's learn to deal with the dirty stable. We'll produce a larger harvest. Okay. That index card that you have, if you don't have one, you can grab one here and a pen. There are a lot of messy people out there in the world who do not yet have a relationship with Jesus. Amen? Right? And they need Jesus, and they need us, and all of our beautiful mess. Right? So I heard this thing on the radio today that many men start to go on a diet after the Super Bowl. Because you can't diet during the playoffs. I'll just leave that one go, okay? I just heard that on the radio. But I think in the same way, we need to make sure that we are now exercising our spiritual outreach and evangelism muscles as well. You know, the Patriots staged that amazing comeback when it was 28-3 and somehow come back and won that game, right? And, you know, right now, beginning of the year, I would say kind of our score, if you will, with just people we're studying the Bible with and reaching out to, it's kind of like we're down 20-3, okay? But I think it only takes a little bit of focused shift on our part to radically turn that around. Why do I believe that? I believe that because Scott Connor, a couple weeks ago with his family group, was kind of feeling the same way with his group. And he's like, gosh, guys, we've been together for a couple, 3 years now, and our effectiveness in really reaching out to other messy non-Christian people has not been that great at all. And so Scott said tonight, he's like, actually, I did a lesson. I was super uncomfortable doing the lesson. And what he did, he challenged everyone in their group to invite a non-Christian into their home once a month, and they could even do it on Bible Talk night and skip Bible Talk just to have a non-Christian in their home, okay? And here's what has happened just in the last couple weeks since that time with their group. The Monties had a new couple over who are planning to come to Bible Talk this week. The Monties had another couple over, another couple coming next week. The Ruggs are going to be joining a couple for dinner. Debbie Rugg is praying with a woman at work. Scott invited a riding buddy to church. He got a polite no, but he invited him nonetheless. Celeste invited a co-worker and got persecuted by another co-worker when she was doing that. That's interesting. Susie met a retired woman at Sam's yesterday, and they made plans to cook together. I'm like, that's absolutely something I would not do at Sam's. Meet somebody. And, hey, brother, you want to come to my house and cook? You know, like... Just... So I don't say that in derision. So don't hear me saying that way. I'm like, I'm convicted. Wow, you know. And one of the other sisters reconnected with a woman who has breast cancer and is going through a messy time, physically, even in her health. All that happening, all that engagement with messy non-Christian people just because a Bible Talk said, let's engage. Let's just engage some messy people. So what I want you to do on your card is put your name on one side. Okay, on the first side, your name, and it's on the handout what to put. And then anybody right now that you're studying the Bible with. If you happen to be studying the Bible with someone right now. So just your name, and if you're studying the Bible or involved in a study with someone, just put their name and what they're studying. We're studying the cross, we're studying discipleship, we're studying the Word. And then when the next study is, we're going to get together Thursday. Okay, that's all on your handout, so you don't have to remember all that. So put that on side 1. Then flip it over, and on side 2 of that, just please write down the names of any messy non-Christians that you could invite to your home this week, or to church, or to Bible Talk, or to pray, or to study, or to go out to lunch, or come to your house to cook, or whatever. Okay? any next step. What you're looking at is, what is the next thing I can do with the people that God has put me around? What could I do? A movie night with the guys. Let's go catch a cool new flick that's out. Maybe somebody does want to come to church or come to your Bible talk, or you just want to grab a coffee, or you want to go have a beer, you want to have lunch, something. But what's a next step that you could take? So just write down the names of any messy non-Christians you know. And they're all messy. We're all messy. You get the point. But anybody, and just kind of put beside, I'm going to invite them to blank, or I'm going to ask them to blank, or I just want you to think and actually write it down. This isn't really for my sake. I'll pray over all this for all of us. That's what I'll do with these, and then I'm going to throw them away. So nobody else is going to know what's on them, except me and the Lord, and you. Okay? And so write those down, and then we'll pass those all in here. We got a couple minutes left, so let's just take a few minutes. 8:15's rolling around here, and we'll wrap up then. And let's make sure, as much as we're getting our needs met, you already have Jesus. But there are other people that are trying to get their messy needs met, and they don't have Jesus. And let's give them that opportunity, same opportunity that we have. So take a couple minutes. As you're done, if I could get a couple brothers just to start in the back, just kind of pass them all in, and then bring them all forward. That would be really helpful. And then you're not kicked out. You can continue. You're with your family group. If I interrupted a really good conversation, continue that. If you just want to have a personal conversation with someone in lieu of things we talked about tonight, please feel free to do that. Again, thanks for coming. Thanks for spending your time here in midweek. We'll see you Sunday. Sonny Ryan is going to be preaching the word in the Southeast region this week. So we're excited about that. And yeah, love you, and God bless. All right. Amen. Amen.